Now we're ready to start to draw the sign language hands that spell out the character trait for this assignment. So you can look at this reference sheet on the alphabet to begin to draw your own hand. So here are some examples of previous hands that I've drawn in other years. Remember that if your word repeats a letter, you're just going to draw the hand one time, and then I'll let you use tracing paper to copy it. So for example, this one was happy, H-A-P-P-Y. So to begin with, you're going to be drawing your hands on pieces of paper that have been cut down so that you try to get your hand drawn large enough to fit the background space of the design that you did. So if I'm going to do the word brave, I'm going to draw these on their own individual pieces. So I've got B, R, A, B, and then I'll have another piece of paper for my E. So to begin with, I'm just going to find my first letter, which is a B. So I'm going to look at this chart and I'm going to try to mimic that hand position with my non-dominant hand. So I'm right-handed, so I'm going to make the letter B with my left hand. And when I look at the chart, my forefingers are tall and then my thumb is kind of bent forward. So now I'm going to look at my own hand when I begin to draw this. And I need to figure out, does it make sense to have my paper vertical or horizontal? So for me, the B would make sense to have it be more vertical. If I was doing something like an A or a Y or a G or an H, then that would make sense to turn the paper. But this is going to be vertical. And I know the video is going to be upside down, but that's okay, you can still watch the process. So now I want to look at kind of the overall height of my fingers, which finger should be the tallest. So for me it's my middle finger, and my pinky is significantly shorter than my ring finger. I'm looking at kind of the width of my fingers. Are they the same width from top to bottom? Do they get wider at the bottom? I'm looking at where my thumb crosses over my palm of my hand. My thumb doesn't hang over the side of my hand, so I know when I draw it, it needs to be in the middle. And I'm kind of looking at this contour line, this edging that makes up my hand position, and I'm going to begin to draw the outside edge of my hand and then the inside lines. Those are called contour lines. So I know that my first finger is going to be shorter than my middle finger, and then my ring finger is a little bit shorter than my first finger, and then I've got this drop here to the top of my pinky finger, and then this is going to kind of come down here, and now I'm on the side of my hand. And you can just kind of end it at the wrist and then come back around. So now I'm looking at the outside edge here of my thumb, and now I'm going to follow this line over. So my thumb is going to curve over and then it's going to bend down. And then now I see these wrinkles that make up the rest of my thumb. And then this is going to kind of be where my fingers are located. So the first thing I notice is that this spacing is too wide. So when I look at my hand, I've got a smaller gap. So that means that I'm going to adjust down here. I'm going to erase this piece and move that over. Okay. Then I want to kind of draw in the top of my palm here. And then I can sketch in these areas around my fingers. But now I want to look at how tall my fingers are to make sure it's proportional. So I could literally get a ruler if I want and measure this length and this length and make it accurate here. Or I can just kind of eyeball it. So I can take my finger and just kind of guess. This height from the top of my bent thumb to my palm is the same distance as the top of my bent thumb to the top of this finger. So I'm going to measure this. And that is significantly different. So I could do one of two things. I could shorten the height of my fingers, or I could move up the top of my thumb, because those should be similar. So I'm going to move up the top of my thumb. And I'm just going to erase this line. Okay. All right, then you want to look at fingernails. If you see fingernails, what do those look like? I see just the very side edge of the nail. So I'm only going to draw the tiny bit that I see. I don't see it from the front, so I'm not going to draw the whole nail. And then I'm also going to draw some of these wrinkles across my hand. And then I'm just going to kind of play around with the rest of the bone angles of my fingers to try to get that drawn in. Okay, so this might be all I draw for my letter B to begin with. So then when that one's done, I'm going to work on another one. So my letter R looks like this. So I'm going to hold this position and I'm going to make some observations. Which finger's the tallest? Which finger's the shortest? Where do things crisscross and overlap? So I'm going to maybe sketch in my finger that crisscrosses, and I only see this back piece here. And then my thumb is overlapping that. And I'm just kind of looking at these bottom edges. See just the top edge of my nail because I don't have long fingernails. And then I see the back of my knuckle here and the bent part of my knuckle here. And then that goes down into my wrist. But I also see a portion of this fingernail and then this nail here. I see just a little bit hiding under there. And then I might come back in and change how fat these fingers look. And I've got some wrinkles kind of going across there. So then that might become my letter R. So I'm going to proceed to sketch out my hands in those positions. And now I've got this A, so it might make sense to turn my paper this way to begin to draw the A. So go ahead and proceed to figure out what your letters are, practice drawing them, ask students around you to check how they look, ask me to see how they look, and this is the next step to our project.